Want to beat an ocean monument and get all of its rewards but don't know how? Fear not, because in this video I'm going to show you exactly how it's done. In order to prepare to find the monument, there are 3 steps. First one is to get an Ocean Explorer map, second one is to prepare your resources, and then the third one is to actually go and find your monument. Let's begin with step 1. So the first step is to get an Ocean Monument Explorer map. These maps are only traded from cartographer villagers, so therefore you need to go to your nearby village and go trade with some cartographers. The specific level you want to go on is level 3. However, you need to check something, because I've had some cartographers give me an Ocean Explorer map or a Woodland Explorer map. Ocean Monument Explorer maps look like the maps on the left, while the Woodland Explorer maps look like the maps on the right. So make sure your lines have blue tints, not black tints. If you do not have a cartographer, you will need to make a cartography table to get a cartographer. All you have to do is put 4 wood blocks adjacent to each other, and then put 2 papers on the top blocks. This is a cartographer. Essentially, to get your map, you need to level them up to level 3. So make sure you trade as much as you can. If you're low on resources, try trading with the other villagers for some emeralds. As you can see, when my cartographer levels up one more time, we get a blue tint map, which means we have an ocean monument map. Make sure you get to level 3. If you don't know how to make a compass, put 4 iron ingots like a compass points on a map, and then put 1 redstone in the middle. Once you're at level 3, make sure you go ahead and buy your ocean monument map, and then you will be able to exit the village. I'll talk about how to use the map once we get to that section. Time for step 2. The first thing you have to do for step 2 is to make a water breathing potion. For that, you need a pufferfish, get that from killing pufferfish or fishing, a nether wart from the nether, and then redstone dust, 1 is enough, and then 3 glass bottles, which you'll fill with water bottles. To make glass bottles, put 3 glass in a crafting table, in the shape of a pot. Then you will also need some blaze powder and a brewing stand, so make sure you get those 2. Time to start brewing. First thing you're going to want to do is in your brewing stand, put some blaze powder in the fuel section of the brewing stand, right there. Then you're going to want to put your water bottles inside of the sectors with the bottle icons. But you first want to fill up your glass bottles though. You can just do that and put it in some water and you'll be good, or put it in a cauldron if you want to. Place your water bottles in the icon, and then you're going to want to place a nether wart. Then you're going to have to wait until it brews. Make sure you put the nether wart first. This is an extremely important step. If you do not, you will fail to make a water breathing potion. Put nether wart first. Now you wait until the nether wart is fully brewed into the potion. I highly recommend putting some nether wart around your brewing stand so you can farm it immediately. So once your nether wart is ready, you have an awkward potion. Then you're going to put a pufferfish into the brewing stand and wait for that to brew up. You do not need to wait in the brewing stand inventory for it to brew. The brewing stand will simply make a little sound when it's finally finished brewing. After your pufferfish has finally finished brewing, you will have 3-minute potions of water breathing. You do not want 3 minutes because that is not enough time to fully conquer an ocean monument. So that's why I'm going to put in the redstone dust to increase the duration from 3 minutes to 8 minutes. For those who want a splash potion of water breathing after putting in the redstone, all you need to do is put 1 gunpowder where you put the redstone in, and then you'll be alright. Note that splash potions will only last for 6 minutes when they're buffed. All you will need are water breathing potions because guardians aren't that hard to kill, so you probably won't need like healing potions or regeneration potions or anything like that. Now we prepare our equipment. Now for your equipment, you are going to want a trident, and that is because it will make your life so much easier when fighting the guardians. You can have a sword if you want with looting, so you can get the tied armor trim because that is pretty rare. But to do most of the damage, get a trident. That is also a ranged weapon, so it makes it much easier to kill those guardians. For armor, you can honestly do this with iron armor, as long as you're not on Java. On Java, guardians spawn inside the monument much more frequently than on Bedrock. So for that, you want diamond. But if you're on Bedrock, you can do this with iron armor, because guardians rarely spawn in the monument. The regular ones. Of course, the elder ones do spawn. For your armor, I recommend Death Strider on your boots, so you can walk around faster on water. And I highly recommend protection, so you can get full protection from the guardians' lasers. If you have thorns, put that on too, because when the guardians do thorns damage on you, when you melee them, you can also do thorns damage against them. Also, bring a milk to cure the mining fatigue when you kill the elder guardians. Now, after your tools and armor, if you have a shulker box, I highly recommend having a shulker box with a bed, a boat chest in case you find some cool loot, some extra food, a shield in case you have to fight skeletons along the way, and I highly recommend a Riptide Trident. The other stuff you won't need spare beds unless you have like a other person coming with you. But definitely have a Riptide Trident because that'll make it much easier to travel across the water. Bring the bed so you can set your spawn point near the monument in case you die. I also highly recommend a Totem of Undying in case something goes terribly wrong inside the ocean monument. If you don't have an ocean monument, fear not. Guardians aren't that difficult to kill. You could just replace it with a golden apple. Time to find the monument. Once you've got everything set up, put your Monument Explorer map in your left-hand item, and you're going to follow the locator point, which should be white if you're a first player, and to that little ocean monument icon, the little blue icon. Essentially, follow it until you get closer to it. And I'll tell you when you're closer to it once I'm also closer to the ocean monument map. I highly recommend using as quick transportations as you possibly have. I'm using my horse because I have not found an elytra yet, but if you have an elytra, I'd recommend using it so you can get there much quicker. Keep in mind that some ocean monuments are really close to where you are, and some of them can be pretty far. I've had some ocean monuments literally like only 1,000 blocks away. I've had some 20,000 blocks away, so they can get pretty far. So make sure you have a lot more food than you possibly will need, because if you find the ocean monument and you have no food, you're just gonna have to hunt a bunch of pigs or turn back and get some more food, which will be pretty annoying. If the ocean monument seems to be harder than you have enough patience to go and find it in the overworld, if you travel to the ocean monument through the nether, it's actually much quicker. 1 block in the nether means 8 blocks of distance in the overworld, so just go through the nether if it's starting to be a little too much of a grind to get to the ocean monument. If you absolutely do not want to find this ocean monument because it's too far, you can go back and trade with a different cartographer villager for an ocean monument map. Do not trade with the same cartographer villager because it will give you the exact same map. So just find another cartographer and trade it a different map. For those who do not want to explore too much of their world, to conserve as much as possible so you can find new update content as quickly as you can, make sure you decrease your chunks render distance to the lowest possible, which on Bedrock is 5. Once you've gone some ways away and you start to realize that your icon is starting to move from one specific corner, that means you're actually getting closer to the monument. And once you start to fill in your Ocean Explorer map with some color like what is happening right now, that means you're basically almost there. And now the only thing you have to do is go to the icon, and that's where you will find your ocean monument. At this point, I do recommend increasing your render distance if you've lowered it. Once you start seeing a massive little building like over there, that means you found your monument. You'll find some light on the very top, so that means you're at your monument. That is the big boy right there. That is what you want. Now, if you're close to land, I recommend setting your spawn point, but I'm going to take a risk and show y'all that the guardians are so easy to kill that you're not even going to need to set your spawn point. So that's what I'm going to do. But do make sure that you only go near the monument once you're finally ready to go in and kill the guardians, because you will get mining fatigue and then you won't be able to mine for 5 minutes straight. So don't go rush in until you're 100% ready. Once you're ready to charge in, go ahead and go to your ocean monument. Be ready for a jump scare, because that means you get mining fatigue, which means you're not going to be able to mine as fast as you can. And trust me, when it's slow, it is slow. It usually takes 15 minutes to mine out Prismarine with a diamond pickaxe, so just going through the front is not worth it. Drinking milk won't help too, because the guardians will just give you mining fatigue again. This is where I recommend starting to go ahead and drink all of your water breathing potions, and then equip any Totem of Undying you have, or if you don't have one, put your golden apple on your hotbar. And now comes the part where you start to kill the guardians. Now make sure you don't stand outside for too long, because otherwise you're going to attract both drowned and you're going to get shot by guardians. So go ahead, drink your potion, go through the archways, and then your entrance will be right in here. If you're trying to get the treasure hunter achievement in Minecraft Bedrock Edition, just go ahead and enter the ocean monument with your Ocean Explorer map, and in a little while you should be able to get the achievement. Once you've entered the ocean monument, be very cautious of guardians. If you're on Bedrock, you won't really have to deal with them a lot because there aren't much guardians in the ocean monuments anyway. The reason why Java has more guardians in the monument than the Bedrock is because of spawning mechanics. On Bedrock, they spawn in columns, and if the column is blocked off, then the guardians won't spawn. Because the columns are blocked off by the monument's blocks, guardians do not spawn as often in the monuments. So that's why you see a lot more outside than inside. On Java, it's not the same thing. They spawn if there's blocks available, like water blocks available for them to spawn in, which is why you have guardians in and outside the ocean monument on Java. Now, when you find this room with that little prismarine cube, you want to keep this room in mind because it's going to be important once you kill the Elder Guardians, which are actually your main goal right now. Your main goal is to find all 3 Elder Guardians. There is an Elder Guardian in the top of the monument, which in my opinion is the hardest to kill, and then you have 2 Elder Guardians in the left and right wing. So all in all, you have 3 Elder Guardians, 1 in the left wing, 1 in the right wing, and 1 in the top. So right now you're trying to find the Elder Guardians in the top or one of the 2 wings. I highly recommend starting with the wings because they're easier to kill. You'll know when you found the wings when you find a massive hallway. Elder Guardians are extremely beefy, so when you find one, don't think it's going to be an easy fight. I'll show you how to easily defeat them with your trident once I find one. Keep in mind, all ocean monuments are not generated the same way, so one ocean monument does not look the exact same as the other. However, all ocean monuments have the same central point, which is where the dark prismarine cube lies in. The ocean monuments are generated from there and outward, so you can easily find the other rooms once you find that chamber. And make sure your water breathing doesn't run out so you don't drown. The moment you find this room, your Elder Guardians are in sight. As a matter of fact, it was attacking me right there. So once you see your Elder Guardian, it will be a white, big Guardian. And essentially, hide behind a pillar and shoot the Elder Guardian with your trident. Why? Because Guardians and Elder Guardians do not attack the player unless they visually see them. So when you're hiding behind a pillar, it doesn't visually see you, so you can hide behind and shoot it with your trident without any danger, unless there's a guardian behind you for some reason. Just like that, I was managed to be able to kill it in about 6 hits. The Elder Guardian drops some wet sponge, prismarine, and cod. All Elder Guardians have a 100% chance to drop those items. However, there is a rare chance to get an item called Tide. It's an armor trim, and it's really rare. In order to get it, I highly recommend to finish off your Elder Guardian with a looting 3 sword. Once you kill your first Elder Guardian, your next step is to find the second Elder Guardian. If you found it in the chambers, make sure to go through the hallways to find the next Elder Guardian, because they'll also be in the chambers of the wings. The reason why I recommended to use a trident is because Guardians are extremely powerful. Their lasers can do about 8 hearts of damage. So that's why you want to hide behind a pillar and shoot with a trident. I only recommend hitting Elder Guardians at the last few hits so you can get your Tide armor trim with a looting 3 sword. So basically for this Elder Guardian, you're going to want to do the exact same thing. Hit it with a trident and then hide behind a pillar when it sees you and tries to attack you. This strategy will be able to keep you safe while also beating the ocean monument. I do recommend to check your back though, especially if you're on Java, in case some guardians decide to attack you. Once you kill your second Elder Guardian, if it was in the wing, now your next step is to kill the one at the very top of the ocean monument. In my opinion, that Elder Guardian is the hardest to kill, mainly because of how the room is set up. The entrance to the top floor, which has the Elder Guardian, is only entered from the bottom up, meaning that the Elder Guardian has the high ground and can easily have more time to hit you. So when you find that room, you essentially want to see if the Elder Guardian's camping above the entrance, like what it's doing right now, and then angle the trident to make sure you can hit the Elder Guardian from that specific part. Once the Elder Guardian moves away from the entrance, if it does, you want to slowly go through the entrance and watch if the Elder Guardian is around, and then find the Elder Guardian, lock target, and then shoot it. If it starts to shoot your laser first, go down and stop hitting it, because otherwise you're going to get hit. Once it's nearby, hit it with a trident, and if you want the armor trim, finish it off with a sword. Recommend looting 3 as always. And just like that, you conquered the entire ocean monument. Since we hit it with a looting 3 sword, we actually got the Tide armor trim, which is fun. For those wondering, I did not take Thorns damage when hitting that Elder Guardian because it was moving. Guardians and Elder Guardians only deal Thorns damage when they're not stationary, meaning that when they're moving, they do not use thorns damage against you. Now that all 3 Elder Guardians are defeated, you can drink your milk bucket to remove the mining fatigue. I'm not, because I'm already pretty short with mining fatigue. It'll be finished in a few minutes. Now we reap the rewards of the Ocean Monument. Sometimes in Ocean Monuments you can find sponge rooms. These rooms include a whole bunch of sponge which can be used to drain water. So essentially, if you drain an Ocean Monument with these sponges, you can make a base, or you can also drain the Ocean Monument to make an Ocean Guardian farm out of it. Each sponge room has about 30 blocks of sponge, but do keep in mind that not all Ocean Monuments have sponge rooms. Sometimes you might not even find a single sponge room. But even if you don't find a sponge room, you can always just find another Ocean Monument, or just use the 3 sponges you got from killing the Elder Guardians. You always find the sponges wet. In order to dry the sponges out to make sure that they can actually drain the water, you have to smelt them through a furnace. So just use it as how you would smelt iron, except you're not going to lose the sponge. It's just that it's going to go from wet sponge to dry sponge. You can also use sponge as a cool building block. I've never seen sponges used in a build, but perhaps you could be the first person I see that uses sponge as a build. Sponge rooms can only be entered from the bottom up, just like how the 3rd Elder Guardian's room can be entered. Sponge isn't the only reward though. Time for the next reward. Your next reward will be in this Prismarine cube. Once you're out of mining fatigue, you'll be able to mine all of this Prismarine. The Prismarine itself isn't the reward though. The reward is actually inside the Prismarine. Once you start mining the Dark Prismarine, you'll find some gold blocks. There will be a total of 8 gold blocks inside this entire Dark Prismarine cube. These 8 gold blocks can then be used as decoration, to show off, or simply turn them into gold ingots and then give them to piglins for bartering. That's not the only other reward though. There is even more. You have an entire monument to yourself. Well, you're sharing it with guardians. But you can also farm those guardians to get Prismarine shards and Prismarine crystals, COD, and experience from those guardians. You can make a farm on Java by draining the entire monument and then getting all the guardians to spawn in a location and farm them that way. On Bedrock, you can disable the spawning by making columns in specific locations and getting all guardians to spawn in one specific part, and then kill all the guardians at that spot. You can also take some of the Prismarine or craft some Prismarine out of killing guardians, and then be able to make an entire conduit frame out of Prismarine, so you can have your own underwater beacon. If you would like to know how to make a conduit even further, make sure you check the description for a tutorial called How to Make a Conduit. You can also make a squid farm out of guardians, because guardians hate squid. Since they hate the squid, they'll kill as many as they can find, and that way you can get a bunch of ink sacs from them. Or you could take the guardians and make them your pet. Guardians are attracted to light, so you can lure a guardian to a light location and then put it in a minecart and take it home with you. Or just kill the guardians. After all, they do drop Prismarine shards, Prismarine crystals, and COD. If you do not have a way to farm them, you can just kill a bunch of them for your items. They give good XP. But in the end, the rewards are only limited to your imagination. You can do whatever you want with an Ocean Monument once you conquer it. All in all, the rewards you can get from an Ocean Monument are tied armor trims, 8 gold blocks, Prismarine blocks, a huge base, Ocean Monument farming, sponges, squid farming, pet guardians, and anything else you can imagine. It's up to you what you do with the Ocean Monument now. And that, my friends, is how you find and conquer an Ocean Monument in Minecraft. If you enjoyed the video and it helped you, feel free to give your support by hitting the like button down below. If you want to see more content like this, make sure you subscribe. This is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Goodbye. Have a great day.